Hello, lovely ones. Okay, so this is a video for my animal empath friends who, like me, can feel this and sense the states of our sweet animals here on the planet. Enjoy. Last night, I was on an airplane flying home from my anti-racism training in New York, and towards the halfway through the flight, there was a passenger who brought her dog up to the front of the plane. It was a chihuahua, really buggy eyes, and she had it wrapped in a really thick kind of heavy blanket, and the dog was like panting. Okay, that's really how the dog was. Now, dogs pant for different reasons sometimes. It's not just when they're hot. Of course, they do when they're hot, but they also pant when they're stressed. So I was observing because I was actually sitting in the second row, so I could see all of this. The passenger came up with her dog, and the flight attendant spent a lot of time talking with her about the dog. The dog's mom was worried that her dog was hot. She said that her dog was too hot, and it was, that's why it was panting. So I'm watching all of this, and I'm sensing what the dog is feeling, which is angst and fear and just discomfort, worry, all this stuff, and nervousness. And of course it would be, right? Because being on an airplane, it's noisy. There's like all that white noise in there, plus all the smells. Can you imagine being a dog and having that sense of smell, and being on an airplane? Oh, and it doesn't even get the benefit of wearing a mask, which, by the way, I have really appreciated wearing masks on airplanes because then I don't smell so much. Noxious odors. And then they get stuffed under the seat, so it's dark there. It's also really cold there. Have you guys ever noticed when you put your backpacks with your water bottles under your airplane seat and then you take your water bottle out? Even my metal canteen will go psht when you open it. It's like it's cold and there's some kind of weird pressurization that happens. So her dog was very nervous, and her dog was expressing its nervousness through panting. And she was worried that her dog was hot. So she had the flight attendant brought her some water, which she started rubbing, putting water all over the dog's face, his head, everywhere, chest, everywhere, and holding the dog in front of a vent. They had like an air conditioning vent right there. The kind that you turn and it just sprays cold air at you. So her dog stopped panting because now it was shivering. It was like shaking. And so now I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, that dog must be freezing. Now it's got water and cold air on it in an airplane that's already chilly, because airplanes usually are very chilly. And it's still very noisy. And they're standing in that little area right in front of the bathroom where the flight attendants, get the drinks and the stuff ready. And so there are people coming up to the dog, getting in its face. Hello, puppy, are you okay? These things with masks, right? So you imagine being a dog and singing, la, 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 la. And so then I'm feeling like, get out of my face, lady. to these people who are well-meaning and wanting to comfort the dog, but really having no boundaries with the dog, leaving it its own space. Then the owner I forgot to mention this, and this is a very important piece. The owner is bouncing the dog like you would soothe a baby. human babies' nervous systems really benefit from bouncing, right? They like that rhythmic movement. It's like womb-like, when they're in the womb of their moms and mom is walking around and doing her daily stuff. It's like there's this movement and a little bit of bounce and sway. Human babies like that. And when they're born, they like that. And that's how we calm and soothe them, and we pat them, we hold them. Dogs, correct me if I'm wrong. In all my studies and personal experiences with dogs, I have never known of dogs to like being held up high off of the ground. Dogs are very grounded animals. They like to be on the earth. I'm not saying all dogs don't like to be held. I'm not saying that at all. Maybe you have dogs that like to be held. But generally speaking, they are grounded animals, very close to the earth. That's where they feel their stability, their security, their safety. And so this dog was up in her arms, wrapped in a blanket, water, cold air, bouncing, 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 bouncing. I wish I could show. Oh, I'll show you with my dolphin. Oh, my son crocheted this for me. This is what it was like for the dog. Okay, that's what the dog was physically experiencing. And so then I start feeling like, ooh, that's not comforting. That doesn't feel good. That is not calming or centering or soothing to the nervous system. And I'm feeling all this empathically. And then, not surprising, the dog gets sick all over the floor. Now, this event took place outside of my visual field. So I don't know if the dog got sick from its mouth or from the other end. But what I do know is that that flight attendant was frantically slapping wipes and antibacterial wipes all over the floor and like wiping, really, really trying to clean this mess up. I couldn't smell anything, thankfully, because of the mask. But I felt so bad for that dog. So bad for that dog. And then once it got sick, I started to feel a little better. Empathically, of course. This is like what I'm feeling that I am sensing the animal is feeling. And so the woman walks back to her chair, very apologetically. God bless her. She was really just trying to do the best for her sweet animal. And that was it. That was, of course, the flight attendant kept working to clean up the area. But I just wanted to share that story because a lot of you are animal empaths or human empaths or plant empaths, physical empaths, emotional empaths, all kinds of empaths. And we really do sense what others are experiencing. And this is kind of a funny, not funny little story to share of a recent animal empath experience that I had on an airplane. So I hope you enjoyed it. One other thing I will say, actually, is that a few different times I considered going up to the lady, the owner of the dog, and I couldn't figure out, like, here was my thought process. Who am I to tell her how to soothe her dog? It's her dog, right? She knows her dog better than anybody else. And yet I'm feeling all these things and all these sensations that were guiding me into what would feel better to that dog, right? Like maybe being on the ground and her just petting it and being really close to it on the ground. Or at the very least, not being bounced and patted so vigorously. And definitely not being held in front of a cold air conditioning vent. And the water thing, who knows? I don't know if that was effective or not. But I went through in my head all these things that I wanted to be able to say to support this woman in helping her dog. And I didn't do any of it, which was probably the most appropriate thing because people are primed to misunderstand gestures that we make sometimes. And I couldn't conceive of a way to communicate what I had to communicate with her without it seeming like I was some kind of a know-it-all dog whisperer someone. So anyways, just saying. Okay, good night.